Welcome back. Today we are talking about GST and subsidies with three really intellectual gentlemen who are digging into it. So, building up on what we were discussing earlier about businesses, governments, and how subsidies are not channeled in the right way, some NGOs out there are saying that the right people are not benefiting from the current subsidies or the current handouts, and this is going to carry on for some time. So, YB, do you agree that the right people are not benefiting and there's too much of leakages, the wrong people are getting it, the rich is getting it?
I think if you look at it in terms of proportions, the rich get more subsidies than the poor. And the subsidy that goes to the average single mother a month is only 300 ringgit and sometimes only 200 ringgit. So, but what that goes to IPPs, independent power producers, and to sugar producers and so on runs into billions, though, absolute billions. So therefore, the proportion in which subsidies are allocated is skewed in favor of the rich, especially close to the government and so on and so forth, the ruling parties and so on. But the point I want to raise, second point I want to raise, is the larger notion of a social policy, though, which we lack. We have piecemeal approaches to various problems. You are a single mother, we have one program for you. If you are physically challenged, okay, another program for you. If you have your son or child have dropped out of the school system, we have another program for you, though. But there is no environment in which to create an enabling environment where people from poor backgrounds can move up to upward mobile. That some system we don't have. We don't have approach. That approach again back to this band-aid approach, though. Band-aid approach. I mean, today, Parliament was told that the number of gangsters in the Indian community, this is the third time, fourth time it's appearing, is very high. And, so my question is, why are you so shocked that the Indian poor are resorting to gangsterism? Because there is no other avenue for jobs or contracts. So the problem is, and that's because, even the Malays and the Chinese also, but the number in Indians are staggering. But because there is no environment for them. Now, the challenge for a social policy would be to create that environment, and that environment will give them the push for them to move on and earn their living and so on and so forth. But while there is a nominal social policies that we have, but it's not one that is it's one that's very piecemeal though. Never a consolidated, a thought out approach to resolving poverty in this particular case. So.
Mr. Tan, do we need to consolidate all? We have like a quick fix for everything. Do you agree?
I don't think there is a possibility to basically have a quick fix for everything. There are circumstances that requires special methods to resolve a particular needs. So, for example, an issue regarding the needs of a single mother will be different from the needs of someone need to go to higher education. So you need to have different programs for that. You cannot have one single program to cater for all. Certain people may need different types of assistance. This is from what I see. But in terms of implementation for those types of needs, I believe that the coordination should be better. It cannot be different ministry from our government agencies have their own ideas. Every time if there's different sets of ideas, then there will be too many different methods in tackling the particular issue. So there can be different methods in settling a particular issue for different issues, but you cannot have too many. So, but I do agree that in some way we need to reduce the mechanism, but it cannot be just one. It's not realistic.
Mr. Kumar?
I would share sort of Tan's view on that position that perhaps one shoe size won't fit all. There could be a few, but we shouldn't have too many as what we have now. And more importantly is subsidies are government's money, taxpayers' money, a term that is rarely used in Malaysia. We say it's government's money, it's taxpayers' money. It comes from petroleum resources, it comes from personal income tax, corporation income tax, and of course GST when it's implemented later. The state has a duty to ensure that it spends money carefully, and as a taxpayer myself and not being aligned to any political divide, if the Auditor General's report annually shows all these leakages, I think we need to address that. And that's why earlier I'm glad YB Charles raised that it is the Minister Idris Jala who raised about GST being used to tap leakages. I, with all due respect to the Honourable Minister, do not share his view that transfer pricing is causing leakages to this economy. It is the Auditor General's report. I think if you tap on that leakages, it will I think put a stop to leakages. And I'm not saying I'm defending the multinationals. Transfer pricing is not an exact science. It is a two-way relationship with the other country as well. And they also create opportunities, employment opportunities in this country. To some extent, there is transfer of skill as well. But to use GST if it's true, as an excuse to come implement it to stop leakages, not I think the right reason. But coming back to subsidy, if the money is well spent and utilised equitably and fairly, and I think the social problems couldn't be resolved overnight, but it will be resolved and addressed over time.
Just to come back on this, though, social policy. Though. I think there's a misunderstanding of what is the role of a social policy. Social policies are necessary in a country where you have the income inequality, a huge disparity between the rich and the poor. And Malaysia is one of those countries. Malaysia is one of the countries where the gap between the rich and the poor is alarming compared to our ASEAN neighbors. So therefore, what you need is to close that gap. You need to close that gap. You can't have 2-3 millionaires with 27 million poor people. Just as an exaggeration, but to make the point. And therefore, a social policy, the purpose of a social policy is to bridge that gap. Malaysia does not have that policy. That's what I meant by saying that we don't have a social policy which can actually mitigate between the rich and the poor, in the distribution between the rich and the poor. See, the fight over, for example, productivity growth. The studies in Malaysia itself are showing that the gains from productivity growth is entirely skewed in favor of business over capital or workers. Though. Now, what does this tell you? Something has gone wrong. The system is not working, though, because in an equitable situation, it should be some kind of an equitable distribution, but that's not happening, and that is leading towards a society where one side becomes very rich and the other side becomes quite poor. So, a social policy addresses those questions. Now, that is in terms of an idea, a principle, a notion. Though. Now, in terms of problems, yes, single mothers have different problems. The physically challenged have different problems. The mentally challenged have different problems. Those are different issues, though. But the larger issue that we have is we have huge disparity. That disparity has to be closed. That is the challenge. And if that is closed, then there's no issue for GST. Everybody will pay a GST.
I share his view. As a taxpayer myself, I'm paying my tax. I have no choice. As a tax lawyer, I have to pay. I guess I'm under revenue's radar. But I guess when you see the deliverables from the state, I think taxpayers will know their fair share of responsibility and pay up.
I think GST, as said earlier, 160 countries has implemented. I believe the issue is not much about GST, but the perception of people that the government need to save money and ensure there's no leakages illegal leakages, and they have to be more efficient in some way. So once the government sort this out in those kind of perception, then I believe the acceptance of GST will be better in terms of public view.
Unfortunately, all good things must come to an end. Thank you, gentlemen, for making time for us today. And till next time, keep on sipping on coffee. Thank you.